Starting the webinar. Uh, Hi, everybody. Those who have joined us quite early, thank you for joining us. We're going to be waiting for about a minute and then we'll proceed. So, as many people as possible can join the call on time and get to hear about us talk about our performance management system. So, just give us a minute and we will get started with this event. In the meanwhile, for the people who have joined us, we have divided the event into three distinct categories. We have first category as an overview, where we will talk about the people who will use PMS and the kind of features we've built for them. The second is the actual demo of the exhaustive tool. And the third part is where we take all the questions. So these are the major three segments that we have in order to give value for this particular topic. All right, I think it's a good time to start. Thank you everybody who's joining us. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for showing interest in this particular event, in this particular topic. Uh, all of us from greytHR are very excited to show what we've built in order to solve your problems related to performance reviews. We have a lot of members from our team joining this call in order to give you all the information that you require. In the next 1 hour, we promise that any chaos or any less clarity that you have when it comes to this topic, we will provide that clarity to you. It's a very, very important topic in the lives of not only managers but employees. And we want every company to do this really, really well. That's why we have built up this particular module. And in this event, we will be talking about how this can be of value to you. Joining this particular webinar are two very important people who worked behind the scenes when it came to performance management system. We have Suresh with us joining the call. Suresh is a seasoned marketing professional. Suresh, please say hi. He's the person responsible in order to bring you all the benefits of PMS to you so you understand it properly. In a very short time, Suresh will be coming over to your screen and explaining how PMS really works for you, the use cases, and all of it, right? And next but not the least is Pooja. Pooja has been instrumental in bringing this particular module to life. She has worked day in and day out last 6, 8, 9 months in order to make this perfect, in order to solve user problems. And she will be the person who will give a demo to all of you in the audience how to use our module when it comes to performance management reviews. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. This is what I'm about to tell you here. Small little hygiene for this webinar. You must be seeing a small little button called QA at the bottom of your screen. Whenever you have any question, put your question there. We have our team monitoring the chat. We have Lokesh, our leader, uh, joining us in the webinar. We have Nikhil, another leader for PMS, joining us in this webinar. They will be monitoring the chat. Anytime you have any doubt, anytime you have any question, please put them in the chat. We will be monitoring it and we will take up your question, not only at the end of the webinar, but during the webinar itself. So feel free to ask any question, any doubt that you have. We will be giving you an answer. Now that all of this is done, I think over to Suresh. I want him to, give you an overview for what webinar, what the PMS is all about. Over to Suresh.
Thanks for the introduction, Shobit. Before we jump into this, I'll do a quick intro about myself. Like Shobit introduced, I'm Suresh, and I am part of the product team here at Greytribe. And over the last 10 months, I was able to witness our PMS software take shape. and I'm super excited to be presenting this in front of you today. So I'd like to start with by answering a crucial question, right? Like, which is, why is greytHR PMS the right choice for you? So our performance management software has been designed and built, keeping growing organizations like you in mind, who are looking to move away from manual evaluations because they are very tedious and they can be time consuming, and at times inefficient, and also results in very subjective evaluations. Now, with greytHR PMS, what happens is HRs are able to actually streamline the entire performance management process, which saves them a lot of bandwidth, right? And which can be used to, conduct effective and comprehensive evaluations in your company. And with by the use of the tool, you also get the chance to leverage a lot of data and insights, with which you can make some data back decisions on crucial things like, let's say, promotions or incentives, rewards and things like that. This is for the HRs. For the team managers, what happens is they get a very clear understanding of the team, how the team is performing individually and overall. They're able to identify top performers, right? And then also identify team members who need a little bit of hand-holding or training per se, right? So that there's a good picture of where the team is heading, and contributing to the overall goals of the organization. And from an employee perspective, because their efforts are aligned with the larger organizational goals, there's clarity on how their day-to-day work is affecting the growth of the organization. So there's larger clarity on the growth path in front of them. Their efforts are duly recognized and rewarded, which creates a very good growth prospects and environment for the employees. So all in all, in summary, an efficient and a comprehensive performance management software like this, benefits everyone in the organization, and it also fosters a very positive culture of continuous feedback, improvement, and growth in the organization. Now, before we actually jump into the detailed demo, I'll touch upon how easy it is to actually use our software. Um, so you can start by actually defining review cycles. You can set up our software is designed to be extremely customizable and easy to use. So if you have a performance management policy in place already, and if you have any certain review cycles that you're already following, like quarterly, half yearly cycles, you can implement them very easily using our tool. So you start by defining your review cycles, and then you can customize the goals and reviews according to your needs. So when it comes to goals, if I can give some examples, there are different types of teams, right? And they'll have different types of goals. Like, for example, a sales team will have a revenue goal, whereas an ops team or a different team will have a process oriented goal. So you can configure any type of goal you want for different teams. You can assign different weightages for these goals. And you can also enable employee-led goals. There are some organizations where the overall organization goals is published, and employees are encouraged, to come up with their own goals, which is also possible in our tool, right? So employees can do this and send it to their managers for approval, and that workflow is also possible. So once the basic setup is done, then it's between the managers and the employees who can assign goals within the team, and then they can regularly update progress. They can also have very contextual, conversations and comments within the platform, between the manager and the team member, where if there's any additional information that needs to be given, or doubts to be clarified, all that can be done within the tool without having to use different chat tools or anything. This ensures that team members are largely on course with the goals, and if there's any need for course correction, it can be done then and there. Managers can also get a quick overview of the different team members. They have a dashboard to see how the goals are progressing, how many team members have started their goals and yet to start, and things like that. And at the end of the year, HRs can set up the multi-level review process, which starts with the employee self-assessment, then the manager's review, then the manager's review, and then finally the HR reviews it, and then publishes the rating. So this ensures that there's no bias with just one person reviewing the employee, and there's fairness and accuracy in the entire evaluation process. You will also be able to, evaluate employees based on the goals you assigned at the beginning of the year. So that makes it easy to make it, more objective. The overall evaluations become objective because you're rating them and ranking them based on their performance, right? So, in summary, this is how easy, it is to set up and, run evaluations with, greytHR PMS. My colleague Pooja will be actually showing you all of this, right from setting up the review cycles to customizing the goals and reviews and everything, in our tool, actually, in about, few seconds. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Suresh.
Over
Thank
to
you,
you,
Suresh.
Pooja.
Yeah. Pooja, just before you start off your section, I just wanted to check with our audience for a very specific question. It will be on your screen in a moment. It's how do you currently manage PMS right now? There are only two options. One, do you do it manually? Like, do you use Excel sheet right now to do your PMS? Or are you using a software in order to do it? This will basically help us give a better sort of an answer uh, to your queries, will help us, it will guide us in order to give you a better sort of a understanding too, because we've created this software for you specially. And people who get a lot of benefits are the people who are currently using manual methods like Excel sheet in order to do PMS, right? The poll will be up on your screen for 3-4 more seconds. uh, the right now the kind of answers we are getting is majority towards the manual side. So I believe when Pooja takes over and shows you the demo for the software, it'll be a lot of value to you. All right, I'm ending the poll and handing it over to Pooja. Pooja, please take it ahead. Give a little bit intro to the audience, who you are, what you're about to say.
Yeah, thanks, Shobit. Thanks for that. So, hi everyone, I'm Pooja. I'm part of product team in our greytHR. So, I've been very closely working with the product and shaping it out to solve a lot of problems with related to performance management. So, let's quickly get into the demo. Has Suresh has set up already the background base about what all we can do in our product. Now, I'll deep dive you guys into what all is really possible and how simple is it to manage all of these. So we have three main umbrellas in our performance management. First being the performance period. So let's quickly get into performance period setup. So what's performance period? It's basically the period where you conduct all your performance activities, may it be your goal setting or your evaluations, all of those. So this acts as like an umbrella for you to manage all of those activities. So it's very simple enough for you to create, and it's just a single step. You have to just set a name, then you have to define a duration, and you can also add a description if you wish to, and you have to save it. And once it's saved in draft, you can quickly go ahead and activate the performance period you have set up. So this it's like you're setting up a season for your players so that they can show up their performance. So now, after you've set up all of these, now we quickly get into the goal plans. So where the actual things come into the picture. So goal plans, if I have to tell you how is it all about, it's basically like a blueprint or a roadmap that you want to achieve. So you might have some of the targets that you want to do in a particular year. So how do you put everything into a system, track everything is what you can really do with our goal plans. So for now, I have one of the draft goal plans for you guys to show to get a easier understanding of how we can set up. So the goal plan creation in our product is a very easy guided journey for all of you guys. So we have 5 simple steps for you to configure a goal plan, and it is all guided with specific labels and all of those who
Pooja,
you really
can
get.
you hold on for a minute? Can you little bit zoom it so that people can see the entire screen?
Is it better?
Yeah, I think this would be much better.
Okay. So getting back, we have a guided journey. So first step being the plan details. So here is where you set up all your basic details, like what do you want your plan to be called? What is the kind of a plan you want to create? We have four different options for you to choose out of. And you can also define what is the duration of your goal plan. So as you've set up your broader umbrella performance period, you can select that and you can select the duration. So for example, let's assume that you want to have an annual period and do quarterly goal plans. That's absolutely possible. Or you, even if you want to do a biannually or any of a custom duration you want to do, you can all customize with the help of the duration. You can add a description and you can add also a policy document. So policy document is like a guidelines for your employees and managers if you want to add any. So once after we have configured the basic details, we move on to our next step where we have employee enrollment. So you might be wondering, once you create a goal plan, who all will be really part of this plan? Is it like everybody in the organization, or you can really add a target set of people? So to answer that, it's absolutely possible in our product. So if you, for example, you want all of your employees to be part of a plan, then you can just quickly go select all current employees. Or you want to create for a targeted audience, maybe based on the location or maybe based on the different departments, you can absolutely create the filters of your choice and you can enroll a particular set of employees. So once you have defined who all are going to be part of your plan, then you move on to our third step. So now you know who all are part of the plan, but when are they going to do what? So that is what we will go and define it in the timelines. So let's assume that you are creating a plan for the first quarter of the next year. That's January 1st to March 31st. So once a plan is activated, everybody will be able to add their goals. But it might not be practically possible that everybody would just add on January 1st. So we might need to give a grace period for them to have to their whole of the goal setting. So that is what you are defining here. So the first configuration you have is like a grace period for you to do goal setting. And once we are done with the goal setting, what next is about the progress updates. So let's take an example of a salesperson who has a target, like he has to achieve a revenue of maybe $1 million. So he would be working all throughout the year to achieve this particular target. But maybe he will not be able to update it. So we might need to give a little grace period for the progress updates and check-ins about what they would have worked on. So this is where you define that grace period. For example, now I have given 10. So after March 31st, considering 10 days until April 10th, so employees would be able to update their any progress and any check-ins if they want to really do, and then the window would be closed. And now we would move on to the next step called goal controls, which is our fourth step. So this is a step where you can configure a lot of things. So first one being the reminders. So we would be having this goal plan across a lot of period, maybe for a quarter or maybe for an annually, according to the use case. It is quite common that people might become forgetful and they might forget to update the updates, whatever they have on their goal. To solve this problem, we have something called as check-in reminders. So here you can select weekly or monthly reminders and also select specific days or dates as per your choice. So this will act as a nudge for your employees and like a reminder for them that they have to just go update their goal progress. If they have anything, they can just go ahead and add that. And then when we really think forward about goals, there might be vast goals. So some might be of a higher priority, some might be of a lower priority. So let's continue the example of our sales personnel we were talking about. He might have a couple of goals. One is about revenue and maybe one more about the customer retention. So, well, if we consider revenue takes a higher priority, maybe that is what 80% of the time you would be doing. So you can set these priorities with the help of the weightages. You can configure that too. And moving on, we have goal categories. So when we think from a broader perspective, there will be multiple things the employees will be working on. They would be working on customer side, they would be working on their learnings. There might be multiple categories that might cater to them. So here is where you can select the categories and also define minimum counts and maximum counts. So in this particular step, you will be able to configure multiple aspects of a plan. So that helps your journey to be more simple. And now we have come to the last step and we are just around the end to finish our goal plan. So we have configured a lot of things, like who are part of it, when are we going to do, but who is actually going to do what? So you might have multiple use cases. Like, for example, maybe one of you might be thinking you want your employees to create goals and propose them to their managers, so they might have more ownership. In that case, you can go ahead and just give a create permission for your employees. Or you just want your managers to take a role and they must assign the goals to their subordinates. Then you can just go ahead, simply disable for employee. In this simple way, you can manage the whole of the crowd operations here, and you can define who wants to do what, and that's completely in your hands. So now we have completed all our 5 steps, and we have now come at a quick summary. So here you can have a glance at what all you have configured until now. You can see a quick glance, you can have a view. If you want to do any quick edits, you can go to particular sections with the help of navigators here. And once you're all good to go, you can save our goal plan. So to just summarize what we have really done, we have just configured a goal plan. We have configured various steps that's involved, and you have also defined how your goal plan has to progress. So this might be a lot for you to take. You can drop down your questions if you have any. So as we have configured a goal plan now, let me quickly go ahead and activate. So what does activate really mean? So once you activate, all the employees and managers would be able to find the goal plans in their ESS portals. So they can go and start their goal setting journey. So now, as we have seen how we can really configure goal plans, now let's quickly log into an employee portal and see how we can really put this into life. So now we have just created like a framework where you can go add the goals, manage all of them. But let's now bring this to life. So now I'm quickly giving a login credential for an employee, and I'm logging in.
Before we go there, I had a question on this goal plans. I wanted to check whether it's possible to create like multiple goal plans for a period. Is that possible in our PMS?
Yes, it's absolutely possible. So, for example, you can take a longer duration and create a shorter goal plans if you want to have like that, or even for a same period, if you want to have multiple goal plans for different kind of a use cases, that's absolutely possible. So yeah. So now we have come to the ESS portal. So I have logged in as one of the manager here. So here, similarly to admins, managers and employees will also see this menu called performance. So now I'm quickly going to the goal plan menu. So where we have 3 different tabs. So when I am a manager, I might have to handle a lot of things. I must do the goal setting for myself. I have to do the goal setting for my team, and I have to manage everything. So that's simplified. Employee can do their own goal setting in my plans tab. They can manage their subordinates goals in the team plans tab. So now let's see how a manager can actually assign goals to their subordinates. So for example, now I've selected a subordinate of Jared called Celestine. So here they see the goal plan which is activated, and also a quick view of the policy document what we had added while creating a plan. So now let's really get started and see how does this goal setting journey all go. So now we have come to this page where we put our goals and milestones. So just to give you guys a background, how do we handle our goals? So the structure of goals, we managers, we have a larger goal like a parent, and we can have multiple milestones. So these milestones can be achievable targets. All the milestones once achieved means that you have achieved your goal completely. So let me show you an example of how you can add these goals and milestones. And you also see a preset goal here because this is based on the minimum category definition we have done. So continuing with our example where we were talking about a sales personnel, I'll show how we can add a goal for a salesperson. So maybe the goal might be like to expand their client base and maximize the revenue. And they might have multiple milestones to complete this goal actually. So like maybe acquire new clients, or maybe increase the revenue by certain numbers. We can go ahead and add that. We can also add some targets. So we are telling acquiring new clients. So we might also have a target, how many new clients has to be really acquired. So maybe a 40, for example. So I can go set that particular target as well. And if I want to also set some deadline by when should this really be achieved, that is also really possible. You have a due date option where you can go ahead and select by which date a particular goal or a milestone has to be achieved. So how now for a long we have been talking about the sales personnel. So at this point of time, you might have a question, really, is this really only for a sales team? How does other teams really handle with this kind of a structure we have? So to just give you guys an example now, let's consider one of our HR personnel who might have a goal to increase the engagement in their organization. So let me take an example of a HR and also add one of the goals for them. So maybe their goal is to improve the employee engagement. They can also add. And to really achieve this goal, they might have to do multiple tasks like conducting an engagement survey and maybe having some engagement initiatives. So these can also be added. So we can handle any kind of a goal with the help of our a structure what you have. You can basically have a main goal and divide them to milestones or a sub goals which is really achievable, and you can define what do you really want to achieve over your performance period. So now once we are done with setting up all of these goals, we will go ahead and assign. So now we have set the layer of where what we really want to achieve, and we have assigned it to an employee. So it's the time for action. So now an employee can go ahead and start working on their goals. It's just isn't really over once you set the goals, but how do you really track it? Is a question that might have raised at this point in time. So to answer that, we would go to a detailed view where we can really manage what all is really happening with the goals. So if we get into the detailed view, we can see basic details of the goal, what's the status, what's the progress and all. So, and you also see the milestones that's listed down here. So how do we update the progress? So it's very simple. You can just drag the progress bar that's there, or you can also utilize the text box that's given here to update the progress. And once you start updating the progress to milestone, automatically you see the progress coming up at a goal level. So this is how you can really update the progress and manage whole of your goals. Another problem that we might have is whenever we are having a goal, there might be multiple conversations happening at multiple channels. So everything might look scattered. Maybe when we are really doing on an Excel, so we just have a list of goals in Excel, and we just at the end of the day, we just come and update the numbers probably. But how about conversations and tracking everything related to goal? So for that, we have the central place called check-in. So if a manager or an employee or any other person who has any questions about a goal or any conversation or any documents, that can be recorded over our check-in window. So even we support attachments and the whole conversation can happen here. So this is how
I had a question, sorry. So
yeah.
what we've seen for these goals and milestones is like a progressive sort of an increase, right? Now
Yes.
there are certain scenarios where there's a negative sort of target, like for example, churn and things like that, right? Can we also do it in PMS?
Right. Yes, we can do those kind of goals as well. So let's take an example here only that you have to reduce the churn. So how do we really track it with the help of numbers is via our progress. So here, maybe currently our churn might be 10 and we might want to reduce it to 5. So we can define our start number, where are we starting at and what is our current value, and we can define the target. It can really be an increasing trend or it can really be a decreasing trend. Similarly, considering where are we at today and what's my current progress, we can also define the targets. So once we have entered this, we would also be tracking them. You will also be able to update the progress on these kind of goals as well. So once you start updating the progress, you see it's reducing from 10 to 5. So this is how you can manage multiple kind of goals, whatever you would have set for yourself in an year. So to summarize what we have seen until now we have seen what's really a goal plan, how do you manage your goal setting, what all can be done over goals, how do we track all of these. But does everything end here really? So we know what we have achieved, we have set ourselves, but what is the outcome based out of all of these is the biggest question. To help this out, to do an evaluation of what we have really achieved, that's where our review cycle comes instrumental. So now let me go back to the admin credentials and show you guys how we can really do an evaluation on multiple factors of your employees. So now I'm logging into admin credentials. We are getting back to the admin profile. So review cycle is basically a place where you can do your evaluations and generate outcomes of what all you have been working until now. So similarly to goal plans, we can get into the reviews. And this is also a very simple guided journey, but more a comprehensive journey that makes your life simpler and to get a realistic outcome of making a review cycle. So similarly, I have one more draft cycle for you guys to explain how is it really going to be. So we have 8 steps in review cycle configuration. And just to start off, firstly, we start with the cycle details. So firstly, we name your cycle, map it to a performance period that we would have created, the larger umbrella. Then we can also add any description of the choice. And other additional things that help as a benefit is the guideline documents. So if you have any guidelines for your employees or managers while they are doing their assessments, those can be attached. And then we move on to the second step, selection of employees. So we have seen this also in our goal plans. You can select a certain targeted audience. But when it comes to review cycle, you might have different kind of a use cases. So maybe you want to do a review of people only who have joined before September, considering we are in December now. We might not be able to do a review of people who've just joined us. So you can select our until condition and set those dates. Or maybe you also want to do a separate review cycle of people who have joined in last 3 months. So you can select a from and to condition and maybe select the dates, and only people who have joined between these dates would be selected. Or you might also have a one more different case where you want to really do an evaluation based on the joining months. So you can select particular joining months and you can select those criteria, and respective people would be enrolled in the particular cycle. So this is how you can manage different kind of people who have based on their date of joining as well. So now we have decided who all are going to be part of our review cycle. Coming to actionable item assessments, who all are going to really do the assessments is what we define in our third step, add assessors. So firstly, our self-assessment, that's employee, and then you can define multiple other assessors. So maybe you want manager to do the second level of assessment and manager's manager to do a third round of assessment. So these all can be defined in our third step, and we can also define some of the actions. So are they eligible to give a ratings and comments on whatever are the criteria, or will they be just be able to override? For an example, let's consider you want the direct manager to do a assessment, give a feedback on how they've really progressed toward goals or any other factors if for that matter. But we also want the managers to come and give a quick check of what has really happened. You can just give an override permission. And finally, admin would be doing the final approval. And now we move on to our fourth step where we define the timelines. So now we have already decided who are all going to be part of our evaluation cycle. So this is a place where you define windows for their assessments. And the fifth step where you define the rating scales. So at the end of an evaluation, what is our final score being to be? Is it like out of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10? And how are we going to describe their final scores is what you define it here. Now we have defined multiple factors. We have already passed 5 steps in our review cycle creation. But the main thing, an evaluation is going to happen as a part of review cycle. What is going to really get evaluated? What are the factors that we consider for an evaluation? So the parameters and the competencies that you really want to be part of an evaluation is what you're going to define in the sixth step. That's our performance categories. First one, taking a largely place of a goals. So the goals that an employee would be working on that particular period is what would be considered here. So you can also define the weightage. So for example, let's consider you want the 70% of the score, whatever employee has performed on their goals, and maybe other 30% for their external competencies. So you can also define competencies, add questions, also make it fully configurable, like if you want to just collect a rating or if you just want to collect comments and on what scale you want them to get get a rating. All of these can be configured here. So this step is a template. This is a place where you define your whole template of an evaluation, configure to the nth level what you really want to do and what all should be the parameters that has to be considered in the evaluation. So now we are done with defining the real template of what is going to happen in an assessment. But does it all end here? What's the way forward? What are we really gaining out of this? Or what's the real outcome of it? So is that last thing that we are going to gain, that might be our recommendations in the form of recommendations. It might be a salary increase or change in department or change in designation, we getting a promotion. That is the most exciting step for an employee. They would have worked for a really long time. So this is a place where we can really gather all those kind of an information. So in this particular step, you can go ahead, configure what kind of recommendations you would like your assessors to give, like maybe a salary increase or change in any org unit, or even for a PDP and PIP recommendations. And now we have completed our whole journey of creating a review cycle, configuring multiple things. But at last, once after you really publish a document, what is really visible to employee is what you might be thinking. So that is also quite configurable here. So we have a step called document controls. So here is where you can define, once the whole evaluation is completed and published, what should really an employee see. For example, let's consider you want only ratings to be shown to employee, whatever is evaluated. You can go configure, or you just want to show comments, or you want to show both, or you want to completely not show it. Then you can go select not visible. This was just for an instance. Similarly, you can handle for a recommendation as well. So now we have completed the comprehensive journey of creating a review cycle. You have come to a quick summary of what all you have configured. You can have a quick glance over it and you can save it.
I had a question on this part where, there were a lot of weightages that I could see. How do they impact like the final score when it comes to review? If you could share that.
Yes. So we can add primarily weightage at an assessor level or a category level or even at a question level. So when you have a higher priority, for example, for an instance, we saw goal has to take a higher priority. And so that's why we define 70%. The scores that we are going to get would be based on these weightages. Or for instance, if you want everything to be of an equal weightage, you can just completely skip and we would giving a average of all of these. We'll deep dive into how these weightages are going to have an impact once I go start showing you how an assessment and all happens. So now as we have configured the whole review cycle, now let's activate it so that it just goes live in the ESS portal and employees can really start off there with assessments. So to just summarize, what we have really done is we have really configured a review cycle. We have configured the template of an evaluation, and now we have really activated. So it's now time for us to log in as an employee and see how does this evaluation really work, and part where employee would be waiting at an end of the year to showcase what all they would have really worked on. So I'm now logging as an employee for a self-assessment. So I'm just entering some credentials of an employee and logging in. So it's loading. So once an employee logins, they'll be able to access the assessments. So similarly to the goal plans, we have a reviews menu as well. So they can just go to reviews to access their assessments. So here we have a cycle just we activated, which was our performance check. Now let me quickly check and start the assessment. Oh, now we see the guidelines. So the guidelines that was attached to the time of a configuration, which can just be as a guidance for an employee for them to start their self-assessment, is primarily shown. And once we are all done with reading the guidelines, we get into a part where we really do our assessment. So this is how an assessment window really looks. So the different categories on which an employee would be evaluated on the top and all the other things listed down here. So let me quickly show you guys how we can really make complete the assessment. So the first category that we had configured was the goals. So all the different goals that were an employee would have really worked on is listed here. So we also see a quick goal summary on the right side, like for example, what's the progress made on this goal, what was the weightages, and what were the different milestones where an employee has worked with respect to this particular goal. So they can also get into the detailed view with this help of this particular link. So we have two options of giving a rating, and we can also add a justification of how we have really achieved this particular goal. And we also have an option to add an attachment. So similarly to goals, we can do assessment of different categories as well. So let me quickly do some assessment and move on to the next step with the interest of time. So now I have completed responding to all different categories and competencies of all of those. So now here is a quick summary where employee can see the responses recorded, whatever he has submitted, the different ratings, the different comments, the justifications he would have given. And he will also see a rating summary. So this is where the whole weightages and all will come into the picture. For example, here, this rating he has gained out of goals category is 4. So 70% of 4 would be considered, 10% of 3.3, and 20% of 3.4. An aggregate of all these, he is fetching a final score of 3.81. So this is how it is all going to be impacted. Now, has an employee completed his assessment? Let me go ahead and quickly submit it. And then a point to note, once an assessment is submitted, there's no chance for them to go ahead and edit the responses that they've already given. So now we see it's just updated and it's now pending with the manager. We can see that details as well. So now let me quickly log into manager. So an employee has completed his part of justifying how has he really progressed over goals and other different factors. Now let's log in as a manager and see how they can view the assessment submitted by their subordinate and how they can give a rating for the work that subordinate has really done on. So similar place, we would be going to the reviews, but has similarly to the goal plans, how we had our team plans, we have this team reviews. So where they can go ahead and access their subordinates assessments. So here they can go ahead and start the assessment. Similarly to self-assessment guidelines, we had a assessor guidelines. So that would be shown here. And that can also be accessed at any point of time. So a quick difference between an employee assessment and a manager assessment. Of course, there would be rating and giving comments on a similar template, whatever was configured. But a manager also has a view of what an employee has actually rated themselves and what's the justification they have given. So manager can really see all of those details and they can go start with their assessment. So let me also quickly complete the manager's assessment. So manager will also have a similar view where they can see what's the goal, what's the progress, what's the justification given by their subordinate, and they can also give their own opinion of how they have progressed on different competencies and categories. So let me quickly complete so that we can go to the next exciting step where we see the outcomes. So now we have completed the assessments. So what's the way forward? What's most important at the end of an year? The real recommendations we get. So this is a place they give their recommendations. So for example, let's assume the manager wants to give a 10% salary hike for a manager, for their subordinate whom they're assessing. So they can just click on salary, select and enter the number they want to give and can add a justification. Probably the manager thought of giving a 19% of salary increase. That's how they can enter. So maybe a manager also think they're also worth of a promotion for all the work they have done. So they can just select the designation, and here they see their current designation is senior manager and they want to promote them to a lead. So they just go select the designation that they want them to be promoted, add some justification and go forward. Apart from these, we also have a PDP and PIP recommendations where PDP and PIP recommendations are in a form of the justifications or a text boxes. So they can go add their explanation why this particular employee must be enrolled in a PDP or PIP. For now, let's go ahead with these couple of recommendations. So finally, we have now arrived at a summary where you can see the records of what all has been the assessment, ratings, and scores. And finally, we see our comprehensive summary table. So where we see the ratings given by different personas at a different category level, what's an aggregate that they are achieving at a category level, and what's really their final rating. So here is where you see the multiple weightages coming into the picture so that we arrive at a right score at last. So to also give an explanation to particular persona, how is it all really calculated, we have a quick link here only. So you can get an understanding how this is also calculated. We've also guided with the formulas so that they can understand how is it all going to come. So now we have seen how we have got a final rating, how we complete an assessment. So now let me go ahead and submit the assessment even by the manager so that we can progress to the final step where an admin can go ahead and publish the assessment, whatever has been done until now. So now I'll quickly log into an admin screen. So until now, we have been seeing how different evaluations are happening at a different levels, how a employee does for themselves, how a manager does for their subordinate. So we've been seeing a lot of things. You might have a lot of questions. Feel free to put it in Q&A box. Our team would answer. So now I'm logging in as an admin, where an admin can find the whole assessments completed and they can take the next action. So similarly, they go back to their performance menu and they go to the detailed view where they can see the assessment status. So once cycles are activated, admins and managers can also have a control panel view where it's a dashboard view. So just a sneak peek of it is this. So they can see the summaries of different stages and they can see the list of employees who are all part of this cycle in the different status. Getting into our task, publishing the review, whatever has happened until now. So under my task, the admins can see the completed reviews. So here they can go back, they can see the summary of what all has happened, the different responses by different personas. They also have a clear picture of how is the whole rating coming up and what's the final rating. Apart from this, a quick thing about recommendations. If an admin thinks that he has to make some changes to recommendation, they can just quickly go ahead and maybe override whatever they would wish to, and they can save it and they can finish their assessment. So I'm quickly approving it from an admin perspective. And last step, now it's time to make the things visible to their employee. So that's how an admin has to publish. So the thing is, an admin just selects an employee and publishes the document. So now the results are getting published. We are getting to really the last step where employee can go see the real results. So now let me quickly log in back to the employee to show how they can really see their last outcome, what's their scores, and what all is really visible to them. So I'm just giving the credentials of an employee and logging in. So similarly, where they did their assessments, did their goal setting, in the same menu, they can find also their published results. So I'm going to the reviews tab. So here they can see the document of whatever is published. And here finally, they see the final rating, what they have really fetched out of the whole performance year, whatever they've been really working on. So we had configured that we will show only managers ratings to employees. So that's why we are able to just see only the ratings and you see the comments are not being visible. Similarly, with the recommendations, we have just made the designation change to visible to employee where we had hidden the salary changes. Based on that, we see the recommendations as well. So they can clearly get an understanding what all of the ratings and all of the comments, and they get like a report card of what they've really done all throughout the year. So they can also go and see how is it all calculated and what's it all final. So now we have come to an end of the journey. Now we have seen how we can really streamline all our different performance activities that can happen over a period of time. So this is how you can go manage all of different performance related activities in greytHR.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Quite comprehensive, and we have gone through almost every possible angle of every particular stakeholder that is involved in a performance management. Uh, Given a lot of questions were being asked, whether how do people access this particular module within greytHR. Let me just quickly share this bit of information. It's an add-on, right? So you will have to basically get in touch with your CSM, and we will then contact you and get it done for you. It is a paid plan. That's why I'm launching a poll right now for you, everybody in the audience. Uh, this says, would you like to schedule a call to explore greytHR's PMS, right? So we will come up in front. We will do it proactively. We will get in touch with you. If you are interested in getting to understand any particular bits about PMS, we will schedule a call and we will get into a detailed, in-depth discussion. This poll will be up live for 5 to 6 more seconds, and then we will go to question and answers. We will bring up questions for all the audience member have been asking, and we'll bring it up for our panelists. All right. I think I'm ending the poll now. And time for my first question. And anybody from Suresh, Lokesh, Pooja, or Nikhil can take it up. It's a very basic sort of a thing when it comes to PMS, the significance of goal categories. Everybody understands goals, but when it comes to goal category, what's the significance in PMS for it?
I can take that. So for an employee, right, you have different types of goals. It's not just one size fits all. It's always a good practice to categorize the goals, whether the goal deals with a customer goal, is it a learning goal, is it a team player goal or a collaboration goal, right? It's always a good practice to categorize these goals. For under each category, you can set 2 to 3 or 4 goals, and employee for the employee. Now, the categorization is optional. It's not something that is rigid. So you can always choose as no category and you can set the goals. One of the big advantages of categorization is when you are doing some sort of reporting or filtering, uh, category category selection helps in filtering and narrowing reaching a more granular state from a reporting standpoint.
Got it. Got it. Then a frequent question is, who sets up the goals for employees? Usually we see only managers setting up these goals for employees. Is there any other way, any other person who can set the goals?
So today, manager can set the goals for the employee. Even manager can set the goals. Employee themselves can set the goals and send it for approval to managers.
Anybody who's raising hands, please use your Q&A box to put up your question. We will take it up. As I say this, I have another question for Lokesh. So Lokesh, companies are dynamic, goals are dynamic, things keep changing. Whenever somebody puts up a goal, let's say in the beginning of a quarter, things change by second or the third month. Now the kind of deadlines and targets we assign with goals, can they be dynamic? Can they be changed with time?
Nikhil, you want to take that one?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Shobit. So yes, we do have an option where if there are any changes in the goal plan and if it is outside the goal plan setting window, admin users will have an option to reopen it for those employees.
Got it. Understood. My next question is, can companies create their own rating system? Pooja was giving us a lot of examples. And I want a little more depthful answer for that. Like, how could, a company which has more HR people, more marketing people, more sales people, how do they go about it?
Yeah, so we have defined the rating scale, right? We have two rating scales in terms of the final rating scale. They can choose it between 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 for a particular review cycle. Apart from that, at each question level, we will have an option to choose the rating scales that are provided, based on which the ratings can happen.
Correct. Next question. I want to evaluate different personas at different times. So, for example, maybe I want to evaluate a level of employees every month, and I want to evaluate their managers every 2 weeks. Something similar. Things are not very uniform for everyone. Can that be done?
Yeah, that can be managed. We have an option to filter, right? So there, with the specific persona, a filter can be created and it can be managed.
And just a offshoot for that question. Now we have an employee, and let's say that there are two managers under which this employee is coming in, right?
Right.
Under a particular time frame. So can both the managers give that sort of, input when compare for when it comes to their performance review?
So whoever is a recent manager, right? The latest manager whom the employee is assigned to. So that manager will have it by default. Suppose there is a case where there are multiple managers to whom the employee has reported. So that is a special deviated case which can also be handled by creating a separate cycle.
Got it. Understood. Uh, what happens if employee or manager misses to submit the assessment? It's normal. People can miss things. What happens then?
So in case employee or manager misses their timelines, then it will get saved as deadline missed. So information will not be editable after the due date. However, employees or managers need not worry. In case they would request to reopen the window for them, admin user will be able to reopen it for them and they can make a submission later on.
Understood. Uh, can every manager look at the other manager's assessment? Is it like visible to everybody? Like, is it so transparent like that?
No, one manager will not be able to see the other managers or other employees' performance. So it's restricted. Even employees will not be able to see other employees' performance reports unless they actually show it to them personally. So from the system, it will not be accessible. Even a manager will be only able to see his own performance document or the people who are reporting to him after it is published.
Understood. Nikhil, so when it comes to performance reviews, reports are so critical. Everybody
Yes.
want reports, right? So what
Yes.
kind of reports are available, for different sort of stakeholders when they are using greytHR PMS?
Yeah. So we have added one report on the goals by default in the reports gallery, and there will be one available on the reviews as well. Apart from that, we have provided a flexibility for the admin users to generate their own report using the query builder.
Got it. Nikhil, we've been seeing, when Pooja was sharing her screen, these quarterly goals and, long-term goals, right?
Yes.
But not every employee is like a permanent employee. We have employees in probation period too, right? They have like these short-term goals. And even for special teams, they can have like short-term goals, right? How do we accommodate short-term goals in our PMS?
So we have different type of goal plans that can be created. So we can target a separate goal plan for the employees who are there on probation. Similarly, the reviews can also be done separately for these employees who are on probation by filtering based on their joining date or their status.
Uh, In larger organizations, performance management and performance reviews are like these, complex systems. There are a lot of layers, a lot of people involved. Now
Yes.
I run this, small company. I don't have a lot of time for a lot of processes, right? And when I was going through all the demo from Pooja, I got slightly, overwhelmed. Do I have to do all of this? Is there a way as a small company HR or a small company CEO, I can make use of performance reviews without overcomplicating things?
Yes, it can definitely be done. As a module, we offer both goals and reviews as a bundle. But in case there is no goal setting process, or if there is a process to only get the evaluations done by the employees and managers, that can always be done. Competencies can be defined, and ratings can be obtained on them.
Understood. Nikhil, maybe you have already answered this question, but let me ask this in a different way. Uh, you you're an HR, right? And the performance review cycle just ended for your entire organization, right? Is it possible for you to get one report where every person's performance is basically captured for your organization if you're using greytHR PMS?
Yes, it will be always available. If you go to the history section or in the QB, I can select what is that performance period, and whatever goal plans or the review cycles are under the performance period, I can select them and pull out the report.
Now, we were talking about manager, right? Human
Yes,
error, they submitted a wrong rating, right? And that can have a devastating impact on, somebody performed really well throughout the year. And suddenly, things are not looking so good just by a small little manual error. What do
yes.
they do?
See, generally, how it happens is whenever the ratings are published. So, if my manager has already submitted his ratings and if he feels that there's something that he has submitted by mistake, he can always request the admin user to reopen it for them, and it will be reopened. Suppose it has gone unnoticed and the performance document is also published. Suddenly, when an employee sees the document, he observes that there is some mistake in the rating, or manager's manager has provided the lowest rating. In that case, he can always discuss with the manager's manager or his manager, and admin user can always reopen it for them to modify the ratings. You're on mute.
Yes, I think the manual mistakes are creeping in. So I think these are all the questions that I could, glean off from the question and answer section. We've already answered 76 questions, which is quite a lot. Any question which is left unanswered, what we promise is basically we will get back to you. We will give you an answer in case the question was not already discussed beforehand by somebody else, right? In the call itself. You will get a recording of this call once this call is over. Uh, in case you want to know more about performance management system, and no pressure that we will not be dragging you to a sales call, just in case you want to know more, please contact your CSM to understand what is all possible for your organization to do through PMS, right? I hope that for your time you got enough valuable answers. Thank you so much. First of all, Suresh, uh, Pooja, Pooja, please put your screen on, put your camera on. You did the major heavy lifting. Thank you, Lokesh, and thank you, Nikhil, for coming in the end, giving us all the question answers possible. I think I didn't even know that there could be so many questions related to PMS, but there are. So thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful session. It's been very engaging. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And any questions that you have, we would love to answer questions on PMS. We've done a lot of hard work in order to create this module for you. And we would love to see it in action. We would love to see it get adopted by you. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.